Hello, it's Cameron. I'm going to try something a bit different today. I'm going to record a post for my blog for Media Studies A2. I know it's a bit cheap, but I think I've done this 6 times now, so I've put effort into it. Uh, Also, it kind of makes my blog a bit more visual. So, this post, as you can kind of see above, is the conventions of soul music videos. And I'm just going to start off kind of like explaining why we chose soul. We being our group, Katie, Kaylee, and myself. And we kind of chose it because we didn't want to do rock because it kind of seemed a bit too difficult to get all the instruments looking like they were being played. So we kind of reverted to something that was more solo artists, and we kind of arrived on soul because we all like it, and it's not quite pop because I don't like pop at all. So yeah, it was a good compromise. So I'm just going to start off now. I'm going to start off with cinematography, and basically there are kind of like two types of cinematography in soul videos. The first type is kind of like slow long shots. That's usually used if there's a band involved or the music is quite slow paced. And someone whose music does that very well is Amy Winehouse. Um, she was kind of like more of a classical soul singer, and uh, she involved a brass band in quite a lot of her songs. So in Back to Black, there's quite a lot of long shots of the band. I might put a link below just to kind of like reiterate that point, or maybe some screen grabs. Uh, and she kind of like fits in very well to that because it does focus on her, the camera that is, but there are lots of shots of the bands, and lots of the shots of her and the band are long shots. Someone who's a bit more sort of a bit more solo is this guy. This is Lamar. It's a really old CD, but I have it, and he's definitely a solo artist. Like I don't think I've seen a music video of his where it has a band in it. Not that it's impossible, but I haven't seen one, so I'm assuming he's more based around himself. And the effect of that is it kind of uses more close-ups, and that kind of shows the emotion that he carries a lot better. Um, Sorry, I'm just looking at the CD cover for inspiration. Um, and the close-ups kind of like show the emotion, as I said before, but the effect of this, he kind of focuses a lot on kind of like women in his songs, like just that one woman who kind of obsesses over, and the subject matter of that comes through in a video because the focus is definitely on him. We know that because he's a solo artist, doesn't have a traveling band or anything like that. But also a lot of the focus is transferred to an actress who obviously is meant to play his like love. Whereas in Amy Winehouse's, it's quite a lot about drugs and stuff, and she focuses on the music quite heavily. That's why, sorry, you see more of the band and more of her rather than of other actors or actresses. But another guy who talks about more modern themes and definitely doesn't use like bands in his videos is Plan B. That's the Defamation of Strickland Banks. Really good album, by the way. And his songs are more about sort of like criminal, going to prison and stuff, and killing people and stuff like that. And that kind of shows in the cinematography. There are a lot of handheld shots, which not only connote the emotion being put forward, as with all soul music. Kind of like he can't control himself, but it also kind of like makes it a bit more grimy and kind of like a bit more modern than classical soul. So I'm going to move on to sound now. And sound, well, obviously it's very important for soul videos and music videos in general. But in soul videos, it kind of like differs again. Like for Lamar and Plan B, like it's a lot of diegetic sound, but that diegetic sound isn't the band, it's the singers, and you see that through the lip syncing. So as a consequence, it also has a lot of non-diegetic sound in the actual instruments, as they're not present in the video. As opposed to this, as I've discussed before, Amy Winehouse does have the band in a lot of her videos, so the band is diegetic sound there. Plan B also has quite a lot of non-diegetic sound in his videos, apart from the band. He has like you know, kind of like shouting and sounds of glass breaking and stuff like that. That kind of shows how he's not true soul. Like he borders a lot on rap, and I think he's doing reggae now for some reason. I don't know. Kind of shows how his videos are more sort of grimy and stuff like that. That's kind of like the sound. And the sound is also quite reflecting the cinematography, as the sound becomes quicker or slower, the shots become faster or slower, depending. The mise-en-scene is quite different from men and women. Female soul artists like Duffy, Adele, and Amy Winehouse, they're kind of like, they're portrayed as quite strong, confident women, and a lot of them wear kind of like simple clothing, like the little black dress, not very much jewelry or makeup, and that kind of shows how a lot of female soul artists focus more on the music. Like there's nothing to take away from their raw talent. Whereas for men, it's kind of a bit more flamboyant, like like suits. I don't know why I did that. I'm not wearing a suit. But for men, they do wear suits, and they do have kind of like fancy wristwatches, and it kind of like shows how they're upper class, and they have like a lot of sort of passion, as like upper class kind of like often show in like romanticized visions of them. The mise en scene also includes kind of like backup singers, and we did a survey on SurveyMonkey, which should be on my blog somewhere, and that kind of showed how lots of people thought that that backing singers were a very kind of like key part of soul videos. And finally, we move on to editing. It's kind of like a simple one. It's basically a divide between montage and continuous editing. And Plan B's, like a lot of modern soul artists, is montage. That's mainly because he has very fast-paced music, and if it was continuous, it wouldn't really work because the video wouldn't be going as fast as he was. It's also because he verges on rap, so obviously the pace is increased even more. However, Lamar and Amy Winehouse, they have more continuous, because like for Lamar it could connote like his continuing love for like the woman who he always seems to talk about in his songs. I don't know who that is, like his wife or something like that. And for Amy Winehouse, it could just kind of like, it just sort of goes along with the tune, and the tempo is the word I'm looking for. Tempo of her music. Uh, the lack of kind of like other editing apart from like shortcuts shows how soul music is a lot about sort of raw emotion and talent. So if there was like a big explosion or something in the background and like lots of titles and stuff, that could kind of take away from the artist himself. Um, yeah, so kind of like shows their raw talent. Okay, that's all I've got time for. Thanks for listening, and yeah.